Dallas Cowboys have a gigantic need at corner. Will Johnson, University of Michigan, for me, non-Travis Hunter-wise, best cornerback in the draft. It's a name that you have to know if you are a Dallas Cowboys fan. So, Joe, we are here to talk about my guy, Will Johnson.
Your guy.
And so I tell you, there are the thoughts on Will Johnson in the draft community are I wouldn't say vast. Like, I do think that it's understood that he's a top 30 player.
For sure.
The question is he a top 10 player, which is more the area that I actually like him, and some people do not. But with the Cowboys' gigantic need, he's a name that you have to know. I think it's Will Johnson and it's Jahdae Barron. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's University of Texas Jahdae Barron. We'll have a video on him at some point. But I'm a big Will Johnson fan, and you need help at corner if you're the Cowboys. A trade for Kaiir Elam doesn't necessarily fix you up. Trayvon Diggs, how long is he going to be here? When's he going to be ready? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Corner's a premier position. I saw the looks you gave me, which means you're on the opposite side of the Will Johnson train, and I can see it in your eyes.
I think you laid it out perfectly because I think everyone's in agreement this is a first-round pick. This is a guy that's extremely talented, and if you go watch his 2022 film, this is a guy who looked incredible, could have been a top 5 pick if that carried on. That didn't carry on. There were some inconsistencies this past season. I think the talent is there with Will Johnson. I just wonder, why did those inconsistencies show up later a little bit? You talk about injuries a little bit, and I think with the 12th overall pick, you want to take out as many question marks as possible. And while I think there's a lot of talent with Will Johnson, I think there's some questions too. And you mentioned a good point too. Yes, they lost, or Trayvon Diggs is going to be out to start the beginning of the season. So outside corner is a big need, but also inside corner is a big need. Slot corner. They lost Jordan Lewis, who has been kind of a stalwart for them in the slot. They really don't have an answer for that right now. It's like, hey, maybe we'll put Kalen Carson there. Maybe we'll put Israel Mukuamu there. If Will Johnson can also play the slot, I think that intrigues me a little bit more.
And that may be a point in favor of, we're talking about Will Johnson, that may be a point in favor of Jahdae Barron, honestly.
I was kind of pushing my agenda a little bit.
And I do wonder, into like what you're saying about at number 12 overall, you want to eliminate as many question marks as you can. And that's why, even though it seems like over the last 3 to 4 weeks it's become unrealistic, I think that's why the name Ashton Jeanty kept going Cowboys. It was like need and don't want question marks. There are not question marks about him as a player at the position that he plays. He's a monster at all of it. And anywhere else you go, especially at the premium spots, I don't feel like you're finding the same level of prospect that you find in a lot of years. Some of the guys that I feel really good about, and the word is good, not great, is some of the top offensive linemen in the class.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think whoever the top offensive tackle is this year for you is last year's offensive tackle 5.
Yeah, for real.
Something like that. And this year, I'd have to go back and look at last year's corners to see where I would think I would put Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron, who I think are really close together. But I think for me, it comes down to there's a reason that the guys who are thought of incredibly highly of as freshmen or after their freshman year, after their sophomore year, it exists for a reason. It's because of the traits that they have at the position that they play. And for Will Johnson, those things didn't go away. So, I look at, and I agree with you and a lot of other people, I don't think that Will Johnson had the best tape as a corner in college football this year. I still think he's the first corner not named Travis Hunter. That's cheating. That I would take because all of the traits that he has still exist.
Yeah.
So, down in, down out, are there inconsistencies? Yeah. Did he have some snaps in man coverage where you go, oh, well, he got beat on that play? Yeah. Does he have a bunch of tackle attempts where I'm like, cut blocking probably isn't the best way to tackle? There's some of that too. But I just think it's the rarity of 6'2", 200 pounds, football intelligence, fluidity at that size, physicality at that size. There are people who would like him to run a 40 so that they would know about his speed. I think it's fine. I don't have questions about, I don't think he's a burner, but I don't think that he has a liability in the speed department that's going to slow him down in the NFL. I just think the way that he can react to a ball in the air, the way that he can read routes, especially when he's going from backward to forward.
Yeah, yes.
And if you were talking about Matt Eberflus's Dallas Cowboys, how much are they going to run certain defenses? The answer will be likely, based on his history, they'll run a lot of cover 3, which means you have one deep safety, and your cornerbacks are also responsible for a deep third. that means there is a lot of moving sideways. And if you get an opportunity on something coming across, you don't have something that's threatening you deep, you get the opportunity to put on display the guys who can really track a football in the air, get a foot in the ground, and get back coming forward, make a play once you've gotten that football. It's highlight scouting is not the way you want to do this, but if you want to see the best of Will Johnson, find his interceptions. You're going to see the way that he can see what's happening, the way that he can go from backward to forward, the way that he can play a football in the air. It's that size, those movement skills, he can catch. All of those things add up to a really, really good NFL prospect. And that's what I love.
Yeah, he's tantalizing. And I think, I forget which interception it was, but there's one where, to your point, he comes out of his break, goes forward, intercepts it, takes it to the house. And it might be like the smoothest pick six.
He is so smooth.
He is so smooth. I think every player is a different case study, right? And I think the interesting thing about Will Johnson, it's not a Shamar Stewart situation where I see the traits, but I haven't seen any production.
No, he's a player.
All. No, you've seen the production with Will Johnson. I just think the question about why is there some inconsistencies the older you get is something that I think a lot of NFL draft teams are going to have to really investigate. They at this point they already have, and they're going to have to ask Will Johnson and find a concrete answer to why things just kind of, you were ascending here and then you kind of plateaued and then even had a little bit of a drop off here. That's not the kind of path that you want to see for a first round pick. So I think if you're super confident in your corners coaches and your defensive coordinators that they can get the most and get him back to that kind of rising potential, then this is a guy you take at 12. But if you kind of have some concerns about maybe, these inconsistencies and you're not really resolute on what the answer is to those, I think I would have pause if I'm in that war room.
Remember Derek Stingley?
Oh, yeah. And perfect example.
Stud as a freshman. And then you're like, wait, what's going on? And then he got in the NFL and it was like, and it was like, ooh, it might be.
He's the comp.
It might be some of that. And the Cowboys part also makes it doubly interesting because if you're talking about a guy who is an outside corner, and that's what he's going to play is outside corner. Once Trayvon Diggs is ready to play football and you have Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs, does that even fit? But I also think that Trayvon Diggs isn't long for this football team. I think this is probably going to be his last year as a Cowboy.
Deron Bland's contract's coming up too.
Yeah. And so Will Johnson, I think it's a name you should know. I think it's a name that if he's called number 12 overall, I'm somewhere between I don't mind and I like, somewhere around there. And I'm going to feel that way about a lot of players at 12. But that is Will Johnson. Let's throw it to our guy, Fran Duffy, with his thoughts. He's our draft expert guru here in the All City Network. He's our homie from PHLY. Fran Duffy on Will Johnson.
Let's talk through Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan, 6'2", highly regarded as one of the top defensive players in this draft class coming into the year, was seen as a top 10 pick in basically every mock draft. I think some of the shine has worn off there a little bit. An injury-marred 2024 season, a lot to do with that. Missed a lot of time with a hamstring injury that has continued to plague him through the pre-draft process. Johnson saying after the team's pro day or before the team's pro day that he tweaked it during pro day prep, so he was not able to do a full workout at the pro day, so we won't get a full allotment of tests from Will Johnson. But at 6'2", 194, there's a lot to like here.
Make sure that you sign up to be a diehard. You'll get access to all of Fran's draft rankings, scouting reports, an incredible resource to have for you, especially on those nights of the draft, or if you're a draft nerd and you love to get prepared in that way. Shout out to Fran. And shout out to the guy that we just talked about, Will Johnson. Now, in the comments, leave, what is your favorite color tennis shoe? Or else, not a threat.